No music genre in history has had its art shaped and driven by a more youthful force than hip-hop. Couple that with a history of recording that was comparatively young to older, more established genres like rock and country, and you have a culture that unofficially prized youth as the ultimate requirement of virility. Ideally, a rapper should enter the game or get their big break between the ages of around 18 and 21 for maximizing genre-shaping, culture-shifting impact. Mid-20s? Okay, but you're pushing it. Late 20s? You're old. 30 and older? Get out of here. DMX started rapping at the age of 15. He got discovered and signed to a major label at the age of 21. He bombed with his first single and got dropped at the age of 23. He scrapped and hustled until he caught another break at the age of 27, and he finally released his first album in 1998 at the age of 28. By hip-hop standards, DMX was old, and a rapper like him only had more years behind him than ahead of him.
It took me 13 years to get a record deal. You know, you go get more than a couple albums out of me.
So, he was going to make maximum use of whatever time he had left. Plus, X had a bit of motivation. Thoroughly impressed by the success of his debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, the head of DMX's record label, Def Jam president Lyor Cohen, decided to raise the stakes. Deliver another album before 1998 runs out, and you get a bonus of $1 million. According to DMX, the challenge was that he deliver a second album within 30 days of Cohen's proposal. Either way, who would be stupid enough to pass that up? It's Dark and Hell is Hot was still on the upper half of the Billboard 200 chart when DMX released Slippin' on November 27, 1998. DJ Shock samples a 4-bar section of Moonstreams, where Grover Washington Jr. delivers long, somber notes from the sax to create a soundbed for DMX to reflect on his troubled youth, hint at his current struggles, and ultimately decide to keep going. Slippin' is the ideal launching pad for DMX's second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, which arrived on December 22, 1998, just in time for Christmas. It plays like a postscript for the hugely successful It's Dark and Hell is Hot. The themes of the debut album carry over to here: the toughness, the rage, the graphic swaths of violence, the premium on street loyalty, and his conflicted relationship between good and evil. There are two notable differences, though. Let's start with the production. Dame Grease and PK were the primary producers on It's Dark and Hell is Hot. But for this go-round, Grease just has one track, the brooding Dogs for Life, which feels like a sequel to the previous album's For My Dogs. And PK has two tracks, the somber, piano-laced thump of the Mary J. Blige featuring Coming From, and the album's first proper song, Bring Your Whole Crew, where DMX kicks off the festivities with horrorcore lyrics like this.
I got blood on my hands and there's no remorse. I got blood on my cause I your corpse. I'm a nasty. When you pass, look me in my eye. Tell me to my face that you ready to die.
And PK himself jumps into the chorus for one incredibly delivered hook.
I just love when bring his whole crew. It's just a bigger piece of cake for me to chew a hole through.
The production seemed to be in good hands. Stepping up to the executive producer chair alongside his uncles, Ruff Ryders Entertainment co-founders Darren D. and Joaquin Wah Dean, is the apprentice of Grease who thoroughly delivered with Ruff Ryders' anthem, Swizz Beatz. Riding shotgun on 10 of 16 tracks, Swizz Beatz was going to deliver more of a stripped-down kinetic sound that possessed the hardiness of the Bronx, where he was raised, and the bounce of Atlanta, where he spent his late teens. Sampling was out of the question with Swizz Beatz. He preferred to rely mostly on musical keyboards. The result is a sparseness: strings, keys, a drum beat, and the occasional bass line, buttressed by the occasional vinyl scratches, which further highlights DMX's bark, gruffly song hooks, and maniacal rampage. Earlier critics dismissed the 20-year-old's work, referring to his beats as rather amateurish, tantamount to a kid playing on a Casio keyboard. Just for the sake of accuracy, Swizz actually preferred far more sophisticated Korg workstations. And these critics shouldn't act like Swizz's Beatz didn't get the job done, for the most part. For instance, one can imagine Keep Your the Hardest and No Love for Me getting people up on their feet in a sweaty ATL club in the late 90s. The suspenseful title track is a clever keyboard-based interpolation of the theme from SWAT instrumental, and the rapid pizzicato string loop of Heat enhances DMX's lyrics about a heist. On the other end of the spectrum are tracks such as the smoldering Ain't No Way and the mournful Ready to Meet Him. Indeed, right from the beginning, Swizz Beatz helps set the tone with My which is essentially a cross between an extended chorus and a freestyle, the result of a studio vibe where the producer assists with the hooks and song concepts, and he even provides Sunny Relief with It's All Good, which samples Tana Gardner's Heartbeat and has DMX boasting about his numerous sexual conquests. As both executive producer and the primary producer, Swizz Beatz masterfully dictates the overall sound of Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, keeping the samples at a minimum and relying mainly on keyboards. The other notable difference is the increase in representation from DMX's hometown. As far as New York City and hip hop are concerned, everybody knows about the five boroughs that constitute the Big Apple: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. Less familiar in hip hop, however, are NYC's immediate suburbs. Some of hip hop's notable acts actually hail from such areas. And Yonkers, which borders the Bronx, the northernmost NYC borough, is one of them. If you have Styles P of the Locks tell it, there was a fire in the bellies of the Ruff Ryders camp, dominated by Yonkerites, to plant the flag of their hometown on the hip-hop map. Just showing up on DMX's first album wasn't enough. They're back on the follow-up. In the first album, Chic Luch is on one song and all three Locks members are on the other. In the second album, the arrangement is reversed. Jadakiss and Styles P join DMX on We Don't Give a song about watching out for betrayal. What did we establish last time about how DMX feels about dogs, preferably pit bulls, and cats? The X-Man is adamant that the dog is the ultimate personification of strength and loyalty, as demonstrated by the song For My Dogs. The cat, on the other hand, is the personification of weakness and effeminacy. Oh yeah, that personification hasn't changed.
Hey yo, X, ain't your dogs, better treat them like some cats and shake their to the floor.
In the other Locks featuring song, Blackout, all three members show up, each taking turns with their battle verses. Also showing up is DMX's label mate, Brooklyn's very own Jay-Z. At that point, the only Def Jam artist who rivaled him. The album he had released about 3 months prior, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, was already triple platinum by the end of '98, edging out the then 2 times platinum status of DMX's debut. Plus, it yielded a top 20 pop hit over DMX's peak of number 39. In fact, Jay's opening bars seemed to forecast his future dominance and commercial consistency in the 2000s.
Sleep whole winters, wake up and spit summers. Get putting up Will Smith numbers.
But for now, DMX was the alpha male, or as he would have been preferred to be called, the alpha dog. No one, including Jay-Z, was putting out 2 albums in 1 year. More specifically, no one, including Jay-Z, was putting out 2 multi-platinum albums in 1 year. DMX already had a winning formula, and he was fire hot. So why change much, if anything? The template established with album number 1 is used by album number 2. There's the captivating intro, the street mayhem with spells of reflection, an encounter with Damien toward the end of the first half, a song for the ladies, a return to street mayhem with spells of reflection, and the closing prayer and conversation with God. But you know what they say about sequels. More often than not, they don't quite measure up to the original. The Omen, Damien 2, is the lone dud that Swizz delivers here. The pad-driven beat is sluggish and does little to provide suspense to the return of Damien as he tries to drag DMX into more wrongdoing by using vengeance for his cousin's violent demise as bait. The sluggish pace bleeds into the chorus, to which guest Marilyn Manson is relegated. Now, pairing DMX with Manson made sense since they were both at the peak of their powers in their respective genres. As one of the major voices of industrial rock, Manson was in the middle of an album trilogy, with major hits such as The Beautiful People. In addition, DMX and Manson shared a gothic aesthetic. But Manson is left to waste, dragging the slowed down chorus, which is lifted from the original Damien. At least we have one person who comes to his senses at the end of the song.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and with your help, I know the devil won't win.
And that brings us to the two-part closing track. Prayer 2 finds DMX being thankful to God for his family, fame, and fortune, and he appeals to him for forgiveness for his sins. The prayer segues into Ready to Meet Him, where amid Swizz's somber amalgamation of plucked strings, haunting flutes, and choir sounds, DMX is confronted by God for falling astray. The verbal struggle that ensues between both parties ends with DMX repenting and expressing his desire to follow God, realizing that while the world is a place of struggle, the ultimate struggle to overcome is unfaithfulness. Even without the backstory of flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, one doesn't need to know that there is just 7 months between this album and its immediate predecessor. Consequently, quality control doesn't feel as stringent here. Some of the album does feel rushed and underproduced, and that's juxtaposed by an average track running time of 5 minutes, which indicates that there could have been some trimming. Pac-Man, the lone standalone skit, the opening my doesn't really count as a skit, is yet another short track that ends with someone getting shot, which not only makes its inclusion baffling, but also confirms that DMX and Cole will never be on the level of De La Soul or Redman. But that wasn't going to stop Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood from being successful. Over 670,000 units were moved in the first week, almost triple the number of the first album, and enough to land at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. By next month, it was certified platinum. It would eventually earn a triple platinum certification by the end of 2000. And this was accomplished without a hit single. Slippin' only made it on one Billboard chart, on the lower end of the hot R&B/hip hop songs chart. The second and final single, No Love For Me, didn't even chart at all. No living rapper had done that. Tupac had 2 albums debut at number 1 2 years prior. The only difference? When the second album came out, Pac was already dead. If DMX was wary of the Tupac comparisons by then, he was going to have to deal with it. Greats are often evaluated against each other, and DMX's phenomenal year of 1998 established the standard of single-year dominance for subsequent rap or hip-hop greats. DMX once claimed that he made Def Jam about $144 million for fiscal year 98. While that claim is unlikely to be truly substantiated, it isn't hard to believe. DMX was inarguably hip-hop's biggest star in 1998, and that was confirmed with Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. While it tends to live under the shadows of its predecessor, it's a remarkable follow-up that deepened DMX's art, entrenched Swizz Beatz as his muse, and proved that the rapper's initial success was no fluke. And, perhaps more so than his debut, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, inspired by the Holy Communion verses from the Bible's Gospel of John, chapter 6, thematically nailed DMX's dichotomy, down to the album title and front cover art that has him drenched in blood against a white background, evoking the contrast between the mortality and imperfection of man and the eternity and redemptive nature of God. And no, Leo Cohen kept his word and gave DMX the $1 million.